Gadge man, why have you brought an M4 into the AATV studio? Like, everyone's seen so many M4s. They're just super dull and bored with
really unoriginal. It's just as well, this is actually an L119A1 then, isn't it?
That's such a common four-room mistake, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the one I love is when people go, oh, the SAS use M4s, and like, let's go, well, they use ARs sometimes, but this is something we've talked about a lot, I think, in previous episodes. So, essentially, some airsoft guns are really cool, but no one makes them, so you've got to go to all the time and trouble of doing it yourself. And I will, before we start, I will say that this particular build is a labour of love, and it wasn't particularly easy to do, and it wasn't particularly cheap to do. And it's not a flex, it's just if you're going to do these things well, to have a sort of accurate replica, you need to put time and money into it, I'm afraid.
And now, interestingly, the later version of the L119A1, the A2, there are now versions being made.
Like Archvic have made one, haven't they?
Made one, and there's full kits from a couple of other manufacturers, and I've got one in for testing at the moment from another manufacturer. They're now much easier to get. An A2, A1s, although they look very similar to an M4 A1, there are a number of small and difficult differences to get right. Yeah.
So the British SF and the SAS mainly and the SPS, they wanted a replacement rifle which they got in the early 2000s, didn't they? Which is
it was in trials.
It's in trials, and essentially it's a modified version of the Canadian C8 and C7 series rifles, which are ARs made under license by Colt Canada. Yeah. So the most distinctive thing you'll notice about these is they actually have Colt Canada on them, or Damaco for the earlier ones.
Yeah, so this was Damaco before Colt bought them out,
Yeah. We'll go through building a Damaco L119A1 bit to bit. So we'll start off, I think, with the base.
So what was the base on this one?
The base, and this really is a trigger's broom these days, the base was a Tokyo Marui Recoil M4.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I chose that, and I went for the bog standard M4A1 they make.
SOCOM, I think, was the actual one.
It was cheap. It was the cheapest Tokyo Marui recoil I could find, and I knew that everything was going to come off anyway, so I wasn't too fussed. What I really wanted were those really tight internals and that cracking gearbox.
So the reason we went with the SOCOM and not the SOC mod, TM recoil, was that it's front wired. And with this kind of stock, which is much more authentic to the real rifle, you ain't getting a battery in there.
Oh no, your recoil buffer tube's in there, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's got all the gubbins and mechanism in it. So we needed somewhere else to store the battery, and it was already, if it's already front wired, we then don't need to front wire it ourselves.
Yeah. So what we did with this is, because to the uneducated eye, the M4 does look a lot like an L119A1. If you know what you're looking for, you know what you're looking for. I wanted a gun I could continually use during airsoft, so everything we did was bit by bit. The first thing we did is we changed the pistol grip. So L119A1s have what's called a storm grip, which is a storage module grip, I think it stands for, or something like that.
Okay.
Slightly different grip, put it in, replace the motor, check the motor height was all right, the gun is good to go. But the big problem we've got is that barrel was too long.
It comes with a 14.5 M4 profile, so grenade launcher profile barrel. Originally, we 3D printed some inserts for your suppressor. This is the correct suppressor for the model.
So we could just slide the fake suppressor over the excess barrel, and it looked like a chopped off CQB model, because the actual short models of these, the flash suppressor goes right to the end of that front post, which is why also we had to grind off the bayonet lug at the bottom, which is another little Dremel tool. I think you did that for me?
Yeah, Dremeled that off and polished it off. Which means you can get the can on, otherwise the can won't go flush with the front sight blade. And this is the same on the real ones, they do the same. There's a longer version, it's like 15.9 inch, which has a more reinforced front sight block to take grenade launchers, that's why they do that. But this one has this kind of more standard open front sight block that we're all used to. And
the last quick fixes we did is we changed the existing M4 stock to an actual classic like Car 15 type stock, and then we put a KAC Knights Armament Company rail on there. Now this particular model, you can open it up to put your front wide battery in, it requires a lot of swearing. It's such a tight fit, I can just about get a 7.4 two-stick lipo in
Yeah,
there.
a little butterfly, yeah.
Yeah, so you need 2 or 3 of those for a long game day. But then, with those things done, the gun's still black, as it was from the factory. Your outward perception of it, it looks good enough, but it wasn't good enough for me. Then we had to send it off to the engineering company.
Well, you bought a lower, didn't you?
We did bought a new lower.
So you bought a completely blank. So we're still changing stuff at this point.
Yeah.
So you bought a completely blank lower, so the lower receiver.
Yeah.
Was it Laylax?
It was a Laylax, which was again not cheap. No.
And then you finally decided you wanted it done, all your trades, all your trademarks, and the little receiver mods done. And it went off to LC Fixit, LC Engineering.
LC Engineering, I believe, yeah.
There to get done. So what did you have done by them?
So, several things, and these are really those distinctive things that if you know what you're looking for, you notice them. So the L119A1 has an additional RIS rail carved into that top line.
Yeah.
So that, on most copies people do, they don't bother doing that, but I want it to be there, seems they're doing the work. And that little bit before you get to the charging lever,
and the little dovetail,
that's chamfered down a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's on the upper, which is the original Marui upper. We hadn't replaced that. We kept that because essentially there's nothing that needed engraving. It couldn't be cut off.
Yeah.
On the other side, we had the DeMarco logo put on. We had some made-up serial numbers that are kind of appropriate to me.
Yeah.
I put a few personal numbers in there.
That was always a nice touch.
And then we had like the made under license by Colt Canada. So that was the receiver work we had done by the guys at the engineering co. Then we also had, and this is the tricky bit, we had the barrel.
Yeah. Out of barrel cut.
Out of barrel cut down and rethreaded. Yep. So it now can take the suppressor. Normally if I take that off, I can then have an unsuppressed short AR. At the moment I do actually need to reduce the inner barrel a little bit, so that suppressor tends to stay on all the time.
Yeah, it's cool then.
Yeah. And at that point I bought a Replica ACOG to go on top of it, which is really the optic you see seen the most on these during the period of its most common use.
Yeah, for sure.
And then again, I managed to get from Mil-Spec Solutions, I believe, which don't ever call them at 2 AM. I got these little protective ears for the top doctor sight, which are actually quite hard to get now.
They've been people 3D printing
3D printing them, yeah. But there again, they're a small touch. It's quite distinctive. Originally, I bought the wrong sort of ACOG. I bought the one with a little fibre optic across the top. What you want is the one without it. It's very plain. There's a kill flash on there, which isn't technically accurate, but it just saves my lens from the odd BB strike.
You got the, is it the Warlord Tactical?
Warlord Tactical sling loops as well. Double sling plate there. Again, it's a nice little touch. I don't even notice it. It's such a discreet modification. And then the last thing that went on, these rail covers, I was originally using some Airsoft Repro ones, and a good friend of mine who'd been doing some work with the MOD happened to have a box of real ones that had come back from sandy places with camouflage paint still on them. So I was like, yeah, we'll stick those on. And on the other side, even though most real operators tend to use bits of paracord to attach their sling so you don't get any rattle, I find that gets on my nerves. So I cut down one of the fake rails, and I put a small bolt-on RIS quick release sling loop on there because it just works for me better. This Replica PEC box is great for an IR laser when we play night games, and that's what doesn't get used for much else. I don't use the torch on it at all. And lastly, even though that ACOG looks great, it's 4x mag with a red dot on top, which I very rarely need in Airsoft, so I generally swap it out for a Vortex if I'm actually playing.
Yeah, if you're doing a photo shoot, you just put that on.
Yeah. Exactly. And then the last little mod that really makes it stand out is I used to run these for quite a while, which are your standard Airsoft mag, you know, range of plates on the bottom. They don't look wrong.
They're the PTS ones.
Yeah, they're pretty good. A good friend of ours, Ben, actually got some real UK magazines, took the shells off them, put Marui Recoil inserts inside, and they look the absolute business. They don't feed that well because they're a bit squeezed in, but if you don't mind only firing 10 shots before giving it a slap and a swear, you're all right.
But look, you know, and also you can have that one in the gun, again for photo shoots and for other stuff, and actually you can have some stuff tucked away.
Now at this point though, Tom, this whole rifle is still flat black. But I kind of wanted it to be a bit more custom, a bit more, you know, Iraq, Afghanistan looking. So I decided to paint it. Now, it might look a bit overly green and yellow under artificial light.
It's quite a yellow light.
Yeah, in reality, it's nowhere near as garish as it looks on some pictures. But when I decided to paint it, I pretty much stripped it down as much as I could. I took the front end off, I took the suppressor off, I took the stock off, absolutely everything. We hung it on the washing line and we gave it several light coats with graffiti paint, basically.
Never seen a more nervous man in my life.
Oh yeah, and again, before it even got a touch of paint, we put blue tack over all the lenses, we stuffed fabric and newspaper into every aperture, because the last thing you want is getting paint on your electronics or inside your gearbox gears. It's just going to wreck a really good gun. So we gave it a really good spray, a bit of an overspray, laundry bag, freckle kind of pattern on it. Lastly, a bit of grip tape, which I've seen on a reference photo from Task Force Black, and I really like the look of it. And again, I added a stubby Tango down front grip. And this gun, I used it probably for about a year, and it's flawless. Absolutely flawless.
You had it stock for quite a while.
I ran it stock. So a lot of people say, oh, Maruis, you know, they cost you £400, they need to put £400. Absolute BS, you don't. Right, they're really, really good. If you set up your hop properly, use good ammo, you do not worry about
so
it.
UK power levels, maybe if you're overseas, they'd be a bit more underpowered. In the UK, it's really not much of a problem.
However, the one thing I did want, and this is where Tom comes in again, I wanted a little bit more control over my fire. I wanted pre-cocking, I wanted to be able to adjust the rate of fire, etc. So we decided to fit a gate titan to it.
So gearbox mods, we still got the original piston and piston head in, though I took the original spring out, which does mean need a bit of work. It's got a Eagle 6 power upgrade spring in it, and the spring guides then came out. It's got upgraded gears and bearings, actually bushings, and Titan.
Yeah. And but I have to stress, we did these because it's going to be open anyway. And I wanted to use a bit heavier ammo. And on 2.5s, this is absolutely lovely stock. It's just when I was finding using 3.6 or heavier, it was it was a little bit sluggish, you know.
So we've bumped it. So it's doing about 3.35, so about 1.12 joules. So say well under UK site limits.
Yeah.
You don't want to go too close. And shooting around, I think the barrel and hop are all completely stock at the moment. Yeah. So they're doing just really well. The inner barrel and Maru is brilliant.
I have to say though, and this is another caveat to this gun has ruined my airsoft experience with any other airsoft gun. It's so bloody good.
Yeah, it's well, it should be because you're getting on for what, £1,000 worth.
I'd say there's probably about £1,000 worth of gun in there. But again, it is a bit triggers broom because we do say, even though I was happy with the original Maru stock performance, there's not a lot left in there now from the original gun.
Yeah, you had it for about 18 months before we even started tinkering with the internals.
And I never felt undergunned, you know. So, in conclusion, I'd say, Tom, that it is a labour of love. If you want to build one of these, and they are becoming a bit of a historical gun now, they're not... You're sort of seeing the A1 now go into use with like RMP, close protection.
Yeah, if you're doing an NSF build, yes, but Royal Marines are using them, Pathfinders are using them, the military police have gone to them.
I think I've seen intelligence corps with them as well.
Yeah, so they're starting to be, the A1 is starting to roll out. So if you want to do an up-to-date SF, and we're saying to the SBS or SRR or SAS, you'd want an A2. But if you're doing a more retro SF, or you do one of the more specialist units, Royal Marine Fleet Protection, these are really good.
I mean, my kit's based around a 2014 UKSF counter-terrorist kit that I run, so this was really built to be that sort of era.
I think it's a really nice build. The attention to detail on it's really good. You've had good feedback from the kind of UKSF community.
People who really know what they know have been quite complimentary. Yeah. I think the other thing we've done as well, so there's a few cosmetic extras as well that we forgot to mention. Because I remember all weapons and optics having armoury numbers.
Yeah.
I put armoury numbers on with a paint pen.
Yeah.
I've got a Siloom chem light attached to the stock as a quick break. This is a dangerous route, don't go down there one. When you get these pack boxes we mentioned before, they actually come with non-UK stickers. So there's a lot of guys on the UKSF airsoft reconstruction scene have actually gone out of their way to make custom stickers that give you the right ones for your pack box. And a guy called Jay from the Reptile House group, he basically sent us some of them to put on our pack box, which was very kind of him.
Yeah, so they're really nice. The stock's not quite right.
Should be pebbled, really, shouldn't it?
They are now. Someone is 3D printing them in nylon. They're not that expensive actually, but
about £30. I did look into it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You know, one of those things you start thinking about. this ring isn't quite right. But
that Castle nut.
Yeah, because DeMarco used a slightly different one. But again, they're really difficult to find. You might have to get one machined. So it's one of those, another added thing. But overall, I think it's a really good, really good one.
So the last thing both Tom and I did in this, now I have to be honest with you, right? It's my gun, but my friend Ben Webb and Tom here did 90% of the work on it because I'm a total klutz. Don't let me near a gearbox; it's just going to explode. The last thing let's do was a bit of weathering. So we've done that lovely paint job, but it just looked too new. Now, some people go over the top of weathering, I think.
Yes.
Whereas I tend to wear the bits that I actually think will get actual contact. And by using it, so you can see the stock pads, because it's rubber rather than being solid, that's worn off a lot faster. That charging handle, I imagine it will get used a lot in real life, so I put quite a bit of wear on that.
Yep.
In the same way, the PEC box was very shiny when it came out, so we used a bottle of what we call liquid skill. And liquid skill is actually Games Workshop brown ink.
Yeah, Devlin mud.
Devlin mud or Agrex Earthshade, and you sponge it on, and then you wipe it off quick with a bit of kitchen roll, and it just stays in the grooves and creates this kind of fake dirt.
Yep.
Absolutely looks brilliant. And a little bit of that went on other parts of the gun as well, to be honest, just where I thought it might have lain down and got that bit of extra wear. And then lastly, the suppressor, I did a fake suppressor burn on it by holding it under a candle and turning it around. Now, a lot of people tend to burn the suppressor right at the end, but that's not where the heat buildup is. If you watch a real rifle firing quite excessively, all the heat buildup starts glowing orange in that centre bit, and the paint blisters off there. Yeah, exactly. And it's a common mistake to make, and I first time I did a suppressor burn, I did it wrong, because someone said, no, it needs to be in the middle, and I was like, rubbish, that's not how it works. And I was proven completely wrong.
Go and check the reference photos, yeah.
So it's one of those things that, like, it's wear and tear. Like this actual plate here, that's one of those original ones from Sandy Places. I like the wear that was on it, so I've kept it. It doesn't quite match the paint scheme of the rest of it, but I also think maybe, you know, you lost one, you put a new one on, or whatever. That whole drop-on look is quite popular with a lot of people.
You see a lot of mismatched optics to uppers and other bits and bobs, suppressors and bits. Things have clearly just different stocks, all sorts of stuff has gone around.
And I think that level of wear for me looks good. I know some people like to do it so it's virtually a black gun with bits of sand in the creases, and I think that looks a bit excessive, to be honest. It's not for me.
Always reminds me of those tank dioramas, and they wear them to the point of ridiculousness.
Oh, yeah.
There's absolutely no way that tank would still be in service or have lasted that long. Why is it covered
Or they
in
do
rust?
the opposite and they cover it in mud, so why did you bother painting it? It's just like a big lump of brown mud. So that, in a nutshell, is the L119A1 2014 era build that Tom was kind enough to help me with. Have you done any custom airsoft builds? If so, tell us about them, and if you've got links to pictures on Instagram, etc., share them with us.
Thanks for watching AATV. I've been Tom Anvil Hibberd with Gareth Gadge Harvey. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.